Kadosh Boker Or. Daf Yomi Masechet Shevuot Daf Kafhe Amud Aleph 25a1. We're starting from the Mishnah. Echad, right? Devarim al atzmo. Whether a person is going to swear on something that has to do with himself, whether it's going to be, for example, to eat, echad dvarim shel acherim, or on something somebody else, for example, that he's going to give to somebody else. So the Shevuah of Korban Olev Yored, right? It's Shevuah bitui. Echad dvarim sheyesh b'hem mamash, whether it has mamashut, for example, chefetz. Or echad dvarim she'en b'hem mamash, which we already said in the last Gemara was about sleeping or not sleeping. But there's no mamashut; it's not tangible sleeping. It's not an object. So he says, right? So in all these cases, that is going to be a Shevuah. So that means Shevuot bitui is chal on everything, whether it's to yourself, to other people, something which is an object which is tangible, or something which is not tangible. Ketzad, what is the case? Amar Shevuah she'eten lish ploni, or shelo eten lish ploni, or shenatati leploni, v'shelo natati leploni. Imagine a person comes and he does a Shevuah that he's going to give to ish ploni, right? Or he's not going to give to ish ploni, or that I gave to ish ploni, or I didn't give to ish ploni. So sheishan shelo ishan, whether I'm going to sleep or not going to sleep, right? Or he says sheashanti v'lo yashanti, whether I slept or I didn't sleep. So again, these are all the different examples. She'ezrok tzror layam shelo ezrok, whether I'm going to throw, right, a stone, right? So basically, the first one was avacherim, because that's what he said, Shevuah that I'm going to give to somebody or not going to give to somebody. I gave it or I didn't give it. The next one was varim she'en by mamash. Now we're going to talking about also another case of en by mamash. I'm going to throw a stone to the yam, or shelo ezrok. I'm not going to throw it. Shezarakti lo zarakti, whether I threw it or I didn't throw it. Rabbi Shmuel says, eno chayav ela al atil lavo. He's only going to be chayav on the atil lavo, right, on the future. Meaning you're only going to be exactly on the past. Shenemar lehara or lehetiv, and not on the past. Amarlo Rabbi Akiva says, Rabbi Akiva, in Ken, if so, el niela dvarim shesh bein hara v'tava. So according to you, it's only if it's going to be something which is good or it's going to be bad, right? So he says, dvarim shesh bein hara. If it's let's say stam, I'm going to throw a stone into the sea. There's no toilet, there's no nezek. So how do you know you're going to be chayav? Amarlo, he tells them, there's an extra part of the pasuk. Amarlo, he says, because it says, lechol asher yivate adam mishvua. It's a ribui. It's an inclusion. So Amarlo, he says, im riba katuv lekach. So if it's already including anything, even if it's not going to be lara le'ativ, so therefore it's going to be also on the avar, just like it's going to be also on the atid. That was the Mishnah. Says the Gemara, we learned in a Braita, Chomer b'nedarim Shevuot, v'chomer b'Shevuot b'nedarim. You remember we already learned this already, right? We said there's going to be a chumrah, right? In nedarim gimel mubet, right? It says like this, right? He says there's going to be a chumrah in Shevuot more than a neder, and there's a chumrah and a neder more than a Shevuah. So he says like this: nedarim are going to be chalim al dvar mitzvah kedvar reshut. So a neder is also going to be chal on a dvar mitzvah, just like it's going to be chal on the Dvar Reshut. So if a person comes and he says Kuram Sukkah Shani Yoshev, or Kuram Lulav Shani Notel, right? That means he's prohibiting the Sukkah and the Lulav for Chag HaSukkot. So even though through that he's going to be Mvatel, the mitzvah, it's still going to be a neder. Mashenkem Shevuot. If a person comes and he does a Shevuah that he's not going to sit in a Sukkah or not going to take a Lulav, it's not going to be Chal the Shevuah. So a neder can be Chal, a Shevuah cannot be Chal on a Dvar mitzvah. Chomer b'Shevuot, but you have a Chumrah b'Shevuot more than nedarim. ששבועות חלות על דבר שאינו ממש, כדבר שיש ממש. מה שאין גם דנים. השבועה is חל even on something that is not tangible. Sleeping, this, that is שבועה. A neder cannot be chal on that, because a neder has to be on something tangible. Right? So again, this is going to be the different chumrot, right? The differences in between, whether it's going to be Yisur Gavra, Yisur Chefza, that's what we spoke about last time already, and therefore there's going to be a difference between a shivua and a neder. Is it going to be on the person, or is it going to be on an object? Ketzad, right? We said in the Mishnah, imagine you're going to come and you're going to say, I'm going to give to somebody something. So, right, Shevuah shetel leploni, or I'm not going to give it to him. What does it mean I'm going to give it to him? Ilema, if you're going to tell me tzedakah la'ani, so your obligation, shlemar, not to tell, you have to give tzedakah to an ani. So if you already have from the Torah, you're obligated to give tzedakah, you're obligated to give tzedakah. Ela matana la'ashir, we're not to an ani. Because an ani, you're obligated to give tzedakah. You're giving a matana to an ashir. So if I wanted to give you a present right now, right, it's a problem. Right? Why? Because again, here is the Shevuah. Here's where it's chal. Because I'm not obligated from the Torah to give it to a rich person a present. So the fact that if I come and I make a Shevuah that I'm going to give to the rich person a present, that's where he's going to be chal on the Shevuah. That was to do with acherim. What about dvarim she'en b'hem mamash? Sheishan shelo ishan. And right, so he said, any is it so? Rabbi Yochanan says, Haomer, if a person comes and he says, Shevuos shelo yishan shlosha yamim, malkin oto. Right? Yashen la'alta. Imagine a person comes and he says, you know what, he's going to swear he's not going to sleep for 3 days. We give him lashes. Why? It's impossible. There's no such thing as not sleeping for 3 days. Right? And we put him to sleep. So answers the Gemara, Hatam Da'amar over there, it's because he said shlosha yamim. He didn't say shlosha. So if he didn't say shlosha yamim, so that's why it's not going to be chal. Right? In our Mishnah, it's about shlosha yamim. That's why you right away, you just give him and that's it. Right? And because it's going to be chal or not going to be chal. What? We spoke about another thing which is nothing to do with tangible or nothing to do with, which is basically throwing a stone to the sea or not. Itmar will say that imagine you have a Shevuah that a person comes and he throws a tzror to the yam shelo zarak. Rav says he's going to be chayav. Shmuel says he's going to be patura korban. So Rav says that he's going to be chayav ite belav vehen, because at the end of the day you could say yes or no, which means that he didn't throw it or he did throw it, right? So therefore, any Shevuah, right, that it also has a lav in hen. So it's part of lehara or lehativ, and you're going to be chayav korban. Shmuel says you're going to be patur because it's nothing to do with the future, which means there's no tokef to the Shevuah, because if he's going to be swearing this on the future. So if a person comes and he says Shevuah that he's going to throw this stone in the yam, or he's not going to throw, that has nothing to do with the shoot of the nishba, right, that he's going to throw it or not. So if it's a Shevuah bitui, it's not a Shevuah bitui, it's a Shevuah shav. So anything which is not going to be laba is not going to be part of it. So says the Gemara, why don't we just say that's a machlok between Mishmael and Rabbi Akiva? Why? The Tanam, because we learned in the Mishnah, Rabbi Shmuel says, Eno chayav elati lavo. You remember we said according to Rabbi Shmuel, you're only going to be chayav a korban on something which is in the future. Shneimar le'ara le'etiv. Has to be in the future to do good or bad. Amalo Rabbi Akiva, says Rabbi Akiva, Imken, it's only going to be bad or good things. What about things that has nothing to do with anything? Some, lo meshane. Im ze tov or lo tov. Ze lo tov, ze lo ra. So he says, Amalo b'ribuy katuv. It's a ribuy katuv. Amalo says, b'ribuy katuv lekach, b'ribuy katuv lekach. So Rav damar Rabbi Akiva, Rav holds like Rabbi Akiva, and Shmuel holds like Rabbi Shmuel. So he says, no. Aliba de Rabbi Shmuel, kulam lo plige. Nobody argues. Right? Why? Hashta milta deita belaba lo mechayev ale Rabbi Shmuel shehavar. So he says, if right now something which is going to be in the future, and still Rabbi Shmuel is not going to obligate him, so milta deleta belaba mebaya, is it a question? So he says, Kipli, when is it a machloket? Aliba de Rabbi Akiva, according to Rabbi Akiva, that Rav holds like Rabbi Akiva, and Shmuel could say, Akal mechayev Rabbi Akiva atan nashavar. When does Rabbi Akiva say you're going to be chayav nashavar? Elaminta dita laba, that it does exist in the future. Then Rabbi Akiva is going to say that also in the past it's going to be chayav. But something that doesn't exist in the future, you're not going to be chayav. So therefore, he even agrees with it as well. So lema plukta, right? The Rabbi Yehuda b'metera v'Rabbanan kamipalge, right? Kafei amud bet. Why don't we just say that it's a machlok between Rabbi Yehuda b'metera and Rabbanan? The Tanam was learned in the Mishnah, nishba levatel et mitzvah. Imagine a person comes and makes a Shevuah, he's not going to do a mitzvah. Like we already spoke about, he's not going to do a mitzvah. Sukkah, lulav, that's. So he says, right, velo bitel. Now he was not mevatel the mitzvah, but rather he put on the tefillin or he took matzah and everything. He's going to be patur from a korban shuvah. Lekayem et mitzvah. What happens to the opposite? No, because he didn't do it. He was not mevatel the mitzvah, right? Because he's going to be patur. Nachon, but he cannot be. He cannot. The Shevuah is not chal on the mitzvah. Only a neder, we said, right? To be mevatel the mitzvah. So he says lekayem et mitzvah. What happens if he swore to be mekayem the mitzvah and he wasn't mekayem the mitzvah? Again, he's going to be patur. Even though sheyah badin, even though I would have said a kal v'chomer, that maybe he should be chayav like Rabbi Yehuda b'metera. The Amar of Yehuda b'metera says Rabbi Yehuda b'metera, umay mereshut shenu mushba aleh mer Sinai, hareu chayav aleh mitzvah shemushba aleh mer Sinai and sheyeh chayav aleh. He says 1 second. If something which is not going to be reshut, something of reshut, meaning it's not a mitzvah, not an avera, and you're not obligated on Har Sinai on it. Meaning Har Sinai, did they tell you had to eat chocolate? They didn't tell you that. It's not a positive, it's not a negative, it's nothing. So therefore he comes and he says, if right now you're not going to be mushba, yeah, you're not going to be mushba on Har Sinai, and still you're going to be chayav, kal v'chomer, if you are mushba me Har Sinai, you have to fulfill a mitzvah, and you're not going to do it, you should be chayav. Amrulo, they said no. Im amarta b'shvuat reshut sheken asa hen lav kehen, tomar b'shvuat mitzvah sheken lo asa ba lav kehen. It's not the same thing. You are obligated to do a mitzvah, so it's not the same like the devar reshut. Neymar Rav da Amar Rabbi Yehuda b'metera, and Shmuel says like Rabbanan. So he says no, also not the same thing. Why? Aliba de Rabbi Yehuda b'metera kulam lo pligi. According to Rabbi Yehuda b'metera, everybody agrees. Hashta lav vehen lo bay. Here you don't need lav and hen. Le'abal le'she'avar bay. You only need the past and the future. Exactly past and the future. Ki pligi. When is machloket? Only according to Rabbanan. Shmuel holds like Rabbanan, And Rav is going to tell you when the Rabbanan not mechayev lavehen, when it says la'arau le'ativ behedya, but la'abav l'she'avar, that it's only coming from a ribui, there you are going to be chayav, right? As long as it's going, meaning to do the she'avar and abba, you do need. That means he's going to be, right, but that's the ikar of the korban. But it says, but when he comes and he adds on, it says that you don't need is la'arau, right, le'habba or le'she'avar, because that's an extra. That's not the main part of the pasuk. The main part of the pasuk was la'arau le'ativ, to do good or to do bad, because Shevuah is going to have effect to do good or to do bad. So Mativ Rav Amnuna comes and he asks from the Mishnah, Lo achalti hayom velo inachti tefillin hayom. Imagine a person comes and he says, I didn't eat today, or I didn't put on tefillin today. So he comes and he asks him, Mashviachani, do you swear to me? Right? You come and you tell me, I didn't put on tefillin. You swear? And he swears. Right? V'amar amen. Chayav, he's going to be chayav a korban. Why? Because on either of those two cases, where you said you didn't eat, or you said that you didn't put on a tefillin. You swear? Yes. And that was false. So therefore, you're going to be chayav a korban. So now the question is, why? Bishlema lo achalti. No, wait a minute. So he says this. He says, Bishlema lo achalti. I understand if a person said, I didn't eat. Right? No, 1 second. No, but that's a positive commandment. 1 minute. So he says, Bishlema lo achalti. I understand if you're going to say that I didn't eat. Because you could have said, I'm not going to eat. Meaning you have also in the past and also in the future. You can't come and say, I'm not going to put on tefillin. Right? You cannot be mevatel. You cannot make a shevuah to be mevatel a mitzvah in the future. Meaning it only happens in the past. It cannot happen in the future. If a person says shevuah, then I'm not going to put on tefillin. Is it chal? No. Because you cannot make a shevuah. That's what we said the difference is between a shevuah and a neder. A neder is chal to be mevatel a mitzvah, right? A shevuah is not chal to be mevatel a mitzvah. So therefore, if you made a shevuah that I didn't put on tefillin, it's only on the she'avar. It's not on le'abah, because you cannot make a shevuah that you're not gonna put on tefillin, right? But that's what he said, that it's not it's not there. Exactly, you can only do a neder. You cannot do a shevuah. So it says the Gemara, hu motiv la, hu mefarek la. You're right. It's a very good question. He asked the question. He answered the question. Litzadin ktani. It's on the side. What does that mean? Lo achalti, you have to bring a korban. Lo inachti, you get malkut. Everyone understood? Meaning there's going to be a difference between korban, right, and malkut. So the korban cannot be chayav because you don't have the abba, but you could still get lashes. Okay? So Mati Rava asks, Ezo Shvuat Shav. What is a Shvuat Shav? Nishba leshanot et yadu al adam. You remember we brought down that there were different shatim. What is called a Shevuot Shav? What is it? So he said, what is a Shevuot Shav? Nishba leshanot et yadu al adam. If I'm going to swear that this is a car, not a table, you're going to tell me, Rabbi, are you okay? I'm making a Shevuah to change something which is known to human beings. Yeah, that's called leshanot et yadu al adam. Ve'amar al amud shel even, right? Shu shel zahav. Imagine I've got a pillar, right? I've got one of these columns, and instead of saying that this is made out of stone, I'm going to tell you it's gold. You're going to look at it, you're going to say, what are you talking about? What are you saying? But it has to be nikat. Meaning it cannot be something that you have a doubt on it. Because if you have a doubt on it, you sort of have to come and so then no. Right? It has to be a du'a lebnei adam means that you know. Okay? That means they know. So for example, this table. Everybody here in this room agrees that this is a table. So if I swear now that this is a car instead of a table, it's nikar l'shlosha bnei adam, I'm going to be chayav now. Because I'm being mishaneh davar hayadu. Okay, you're right. Today is, you never know anymore. Right? What's what anymore? Right? What's what? What's if? Fine. The tamad nikar, so the reason why is it's going to be nikar and lo nikar, right? Over mishum shvuat bitui. My why? He says, I know b'yeshel zahav. It's not going to be in something that's going to be of zahav. So he says, he asked the question, he answered it. It's talking about nikar, you're going to be over mishum shvuat shav. If it's not nikar, you're going to be over on shvuat sheker. Okay. Not shvuat shav, shvuat sheker. So Amar Abaye says, Rav agrees. You tell your friend Shevuah she'ani yodea lecha edut. Imagine a person comes and he does a Shevuah that I know testimony about you. And he didn't know. He's going to be patur. Because it's not the pshat of any yodea lecha edut, because it comes out that he did know. So you're not going to be chayav a korban because of Shevuat bitui, but rather mishum Shevuat ha'edut. So it comes out that this Shevuah that I know about you edut is not an love in hand that I don't know or I do know. And therefore, you're not going to be chayavim a korban. Yadati velo yadati. What about if I say that I knew about you edut, or I don't know about you edut? That's in the past. It's going to be a machloket. He'adti velo he'adti. If it's going to be that that I testified about you, or I didn't testify about you, there it's going to be a machloket, right, between Rav and Shmuel. But that's going to be on the atid. One more time. You had three different cases. You had a person comes to his friend and he tells him, Shevuah she'ani yodea lecha edut. I know about your testimony, and he didn't know. So in such a case, that's going to be Shevuot Sheket. Shevuot Sheket, you're going to be patur from a korban. Why? Because it's not part of the En Yodea Lecha Edut. Because if he said En Yodea Lecha Edut and he does know, so it comes out that he's not going to be chayav a korban in Shevuot Bitui, Shevuot Edut. Shevuot Edut is you have an obligation to testify when you know testimony about a person. Meaning the Torah obligated you, meaning if you know something, you have to say something. You have to testify something. Okay? So therefore, now he comes and he says, what about in the future? It's going to be machloket. So it's good according to Shmuel that he says something that's not going to be in the future. You're not going to be chayav in the past. That's why he's going to take out Shevuot Haedut for Shevuot Bitui. But according to Rav, what are we talking about then? Why are we saying this exactly? So he says, Amrua Rabbana Kamed Abaye. The rabbi said it in front of Abaye. To obligate you two different things. The Torah was mechayev mishum Shevuot Haedut, right? He's going to be chayav two korbanot, one because of Shevuot Haedut and one because of Shevuot Bitui. So therefore, you've got two different averot here. One avera is Shevuot Haedut, that you knew testimony and you didn't want to give it, and number two also Shevuot Bitui, that you said, right, that you said a lie because basically it's not true. Amar lehu, he comes and he tells him, Tarte lo matzitu amritu. You can't say you're going to be chayav two. Titania, because we learned to the Braita, leachat me'elle. Leachat ata mechayev, meaning when you're going to come and you're going to bring a korban olive yored, it's only going to bring one korban, not two korbanot. So therefore, how are you telling me that there's going to be two korbanot, one for Shevuot Haedut and one for Shevuot Bitui? He says you can't do that. He says it's only one. You can't have two. Ulabaye, so why are we mentioning it then? As we learned in the Braita, bekulan ne'emar v'ne'elam. Here it's not written v'ne'elam. Lechayev ala mezid keshug, meaning Shevuot Haedut, you're going to be chayav a korban, even b'mezid. Meaning b'derech klal, on a lot of other cases, it's only b'shogeg that you're chayav a korban. If you did it b'mezid, you're not chayav a korban. Right? Here, afilu b'mezid. This is Mashomet. Afilu b'mezid, you're going to be chayav on Shevuot Haedut a korban. Meaning if I come and I did purposely, I come and I say, I don't know any testimony about you. I didn't see it. And you know. And sorry. And you were chayav now a korban edut. You did it b'mezid. Doesn't matter. B'mezid, this is special. By Shevuot Haedut, afilu b'mezid, you're going to be chayav. So Amru le Rabbanan l'Abaye, says Rabbanan to Abaye, Eima b'mezid mechayev chada, b'shogeg mechayev tarte. So why don't I just say that mechayev, you should be chayav one b'mezid, and two if you're going to do a b'shogeg. So Amaleu, he says, Lav hayno dam lichu. That's what he said, le'achat. You're only going to be chayav one, not two. V'yi b'mezid, you don't have two. So Rav comes and he says, Mishum davar shaya bichlal v'yatza ladum davar chadash, en lecha bo ela chedusho bilvad. What does that mean? We know that as part of the 13 attributes of learning, right? The 13 klalim, right? Of Rabbi Ishmael in the morning, right? So there we say, right? When you have something bichlal, v'yatza ladum davar chadash, right? So he comes and he says, En lecha bo ela chidusho bilvad. What does that mean? So when it says Yatza lidom davar chadash, it comes out of the original klal. So therefore, you're not going to go only according to the halacha chadasha only. So therefore, Shevuot Haedut was part of all the Shevuot, just like Shevuot Bitui. When you come and you took it out to be mechadesh, that Shevuot Haedut, the chiyuv is going to be only if you know how to testify and you could swear about it in a bedin. It comes out of the klal adishon. Now I cannot come and bring you back to a Shevuot Bitui, but only because of Shevuot Haedut by itself. I cannot plug it back to the original Shevuah. So I had Shevuot Haedut was part of Shevuot Bitui. Once I took it out, Lidomba Davar Chadash, I cannot plug it back to Shevuot Bitui. I cannot put it back to the original Shevuah. So Michal da Abaye Savar, Ita Lishvuah Ba'alam. So it's mashma that according to Shitat Abaye, that when he says La'achat, you could only obligate in one korban and not two. So he holds, like Rava, that what? That there is a Shevuah Ba'alam. Right, which means Shevuot Haedut is part of Shevuot Bitui. Amar Abaye, Abaye says, "Modar Rav v'omer lechavero shavua she'eni yodea lecha edut," and it's found out that shelo yada leedut, you're going to be patur. Chol v'lete v'eni yodea lecha edut, because you don't have it. So what are you talking about then? You cannot put it back to shavua bitui. So answers the Gemara. First answer, Hadar Abaye ahi, which means that really be'emet Abaye was chazarbo, but he holds that when it says en yodea lecha edut, I do not know any edut, it's because of shavua bitui, and it was chazarbo to obligate him mishum shavua bitui. So according to him, after the chazara, you are going to be chayav because it is considered a lav. If you can answer, chada minayu, it was Rav Papa. Rav Papa mana. One of these two statements that they said, which is again a stira, is actually Rav Papa. So therefore, since it was Rav Papa, it wasn't a Abaye, it was in the name of a Abaye. So therefore, that's why it's not a stira according to Rav Papa.